Okay, it's now time for a follow-up review of Enso OS 0.3.1. Let's just make sure that we've got the correct version number, and it is the Dancing Daisy release. So if you remember on the episode 8 of the Distro Spinner, we got this and set it up for just a whole week's use on the Monday, and we're now going to go through how I found it during that week. If you didn't watch that video, I'll chuck a link up there so you can watch that before you watch this one. But with that out of the way, I'm going to start in a different order than what I usually do. So when I do these reviews, I have like some rough notes with like little categories, and then I'll sort of go through them one by one. But with this one, I've had a couple of issues in a certain category that I want to highlight first. So performance and stability wise, let me just change that to what I like. Right, so performance and stability wise, I have run into quite a few crashes actually, and annoying crashes, like when you're doing something important and you really need your computer to work. I've had a crash here and there where I've had to just do a hard reset. Even this morning, actually, this video is a bit later than what was originally intended. If we jump in there, you can see that we've got a couple of files here that we've tried to sort of stop and start, and they've all crashed here and there whilst running OBS on the host system. So we've jumped over to the external capture card, and we're going to hopefully be able to run through it now. So I thought I'd just mention it now. I wouldn't use this as a sort of a workstation computer right away, because it's not there yet, I don't think, in terms of stability. But when you go onto the download page, it is still in the status of beta, so that's something that will probably be addressed moving forward, and it will all sort of work as intended, and that complaint will be non-existent from then on. But I thought I'd chuck it out there before we get going. And also, if you go into the contact here and join this little conversation and go up to Nick, there's a message somewhere, here we go. So as it says, haven't had the time in the last year to do a post update, but the next release 0.4 is in the pipeline, and I'm looking to get it released for June this year. So it's currently June this year now, so hopefully that comes out fairly soon, and we can sort of have a look at that one as well and see if any of the problems that I did run into have all been addressed. Because at the moment this is based on 18.04, so hopefully the newer release comes with sort of 20.04 as its base. With that out of the way, let's leave that open actually. With that out of the way, let's talk. Oh, we've got an error there as well. We won't send that. Right, with that out of the way, let's talk about how I've actually found it. So I'm going to start with the look and feel, because I think that is the sort of shining feature that stood out to me anyway during the whole week of using it. You could almost convince me that this wasn't XFCE if I was just very quickly looking at it, but it is definitely XFCE. Oh, wrong page. So if you go into the About XFCE, you can see we're on quite an old version of XFCE now, which is 4.12. So the newer version 4.14 will be included in 20.04. So if they move over to that, then that will get the newer version of XFCE there. But for the most part, I think it looks outstanding. I think it's a very pretty implementation of XFCE, and like I mentioned in the first video, it is the nicest implementation I think I've probably seen. So we're going to start with how they've structured the panel here, which is just plank, not panel, sorry, dock, which is plank. You have an application launcher to the left, which you can categorize, and also have starred applications there where you can favorite applications and just jump straight into them. And you can scroll through all your applications like that, and it also has your turn off buttons, shut down, restart, suspend, and log out. We will have a look at the lock screen in a moment as well, because there's quite a nice looking lock screen. So for the most part, this panel is good. This dock is good the way they've got it to the left, but it does have a few little niggles that they do grate on me a bit. So if we was to full screen an application, at first glance that might look okay, but obviously that's just empty space there where your wallpaper is. So I think it's trying to sort of pretend to be a panel almost, but obviously a panel would be an actual solid bar, and there would be either a shade or a colour or just a system theme there. Fortunately, I use very minimal wallpapers, but if you're someone that likes a colourful wallpaper, so let's just choose one that's quite colourful. Let's choose this one. So it doesn't look quite right to me, that, and if you're just going full screen, that just doesn't work for me. I think that's a bit ugly actually, and for something that's meant to sort of, you know, pretty up XFCE, I think that could be addressed at some point. Yeah, it doesn't look good. I'm going to change it back straight away, to be honest with you, but I'm just going to show you it looks worse with split screen. So if you've got two applications in split screen view, it just looks like that's not meant to be like that, but that's just the way it's been designed, because obviously this is just plank. and then it's just moved to the left, and then you've got your multitasking view there. So it feels like a panel until something is full screened, and then you're sort of presented with a wallpaper there, which again we're going to change back. So if we use a more solid coloured one, then it doesn't look so bad. So my other complaint about it is I think it needs a bit more padding with the theme that they've got there, because it looks like the icon almost bleeds into the actual window that you're running, and when you go over it, it actually does look, so we're now actually on the window there with the icon, and I think that's a bit messy, but that's just a personal thing. You might feel completely different, but we're not going to worry about that too much. So we're going to minimize that, and then the top panel is where I think it all comes together, to be honest with you. So the top panel, we're going to go into the preferences here. So if we go into the items, we have an app menu, which is the global menu there, and then we have this date and time plugin, which is the Enso date and time plugin, which looks a lot nicer than the standard sort of ones that you'll find on XFCE, and it ties up the rest of the sort of look and feel of the distribution really quite well. And I think they've done a really good job with the theming, and we'll go into the theming in a moment. So here we've got the global menu, and the thing that I like the most about it is that it actually has support out of the box for Firefox. That doesn't sound like a massive thing, but a lot of distributions that sort of implement global menus or have the option to, like Ubuntu or something like that, the last time I checked anyway, they weren't already set up out of the box support for Firefox in the global menu. So it's nice to see that this one actually has the support out of the box without having to do any sort of manual interventions to get that to work. So I do like that, and I think that's a good thing that they've gone and done. So let's go into the appearance. So my first complaint, as much as I love the theme, I like a dark theme, and unfortunately there is only one Enso theme in this whole sort of selection here, and it's a light theme. So it's a very nice looking theme, I have no complaints with it, but I would like them to sort of implement a darker variant of the same theme just for those times when you don't want a very light theme, which for me is basically all of the time. So I did my usual and installed Arc Dark. So if we close that and then reopen that, that would look normal again. So you might think perfect job done, but then that doesn't look quite right in the application launcher here. So as you can see, everything looks a bit blurred out, and it just doesn't quite fit with that launcher. So we've stayed on Enso for the most part, and like I said, it's a really nice theme. I'm more of a dark theme kind of person, so I think if they was to do a newer release, they should work on the dark theme. One more complaint about the sort of whole look and feel of stuff. A new user that's used XFCE before might try and open one of these packages, either Windows Manager or Windows Tweak. Unfortunately, you won't actually be able to open it, and the reason being is because it's not using the same Windows Manager that a default XFCE would use. So if we go and just start this VM up that I've booted up for this video, let's just minimize that for the moment. So if we run into NeoFetch in this terminal, as you can see, we are using Mutter in brackets Gala. So it's the thing you'll find in the elementary OS, but if we jump into just as Ubuntu, wrong window, and then we'll do the same thing on here, you can see that it's using XFMW4, whatever it's called. XFMW4. So that is the reason why you can't actually open the Windows Manager and Tweaks. And they have put in place a different application for you to manage things like your keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that. But I think the fact that they're there still in the base install will confuse a couple of new users. And you might think, no, it won't. Well, I've actually checked this out just to see. So if you was to type in something like can't open Window Manager Tweaks XFCE, you will notice that the very first result is a post on Unix, Linux and the Stack Exchange. And if you go into this thing here, as you can see, this person was using Enso. So it will lead to a bit of confusion for certain people, and I think maybe just disabling those packages and not having them there might be a bit of a better idea. Why can't we force this off? Go away. There we go. So it does make up for it though. So if we were to type in shortcuts, you can then get into the keyboard settings here, and here is where you can change things like your different layouts, different languages, and then you can change your keys. This reminds me a little bit of Apple, Mac OS, the way it sort of lets you switch the keys and has the sort of key behavior and stuff like that. And I think they've taken a lot of sort of design inspiration from Apple / Elementary. It's a weird one, but I think it works. And then you can also add your shortcuts there for your windows, your workspaces, screenshots, etc. And in behavior there, so repeat keys again. So the last time I used a Mac, this was sort of what the settings would have in there as well for repeat keys and stuff like that. So I do think he's the guy who's created this might have been an ex-Apple user. I'm just guessing, but we don't know about that. So the main thing that I think about the support of this distro is it does appear to be just a one-man team. So if you go into team here, you can see it's all done by the one guy, Nick Wilkins. So it's not going to be as well supported as you might want, purely just for the fact that there's not a massive team working on it, and there's not a massive user base that are currently using it as their sort of main OS. So you might find yourself sort of scratching your head here and there, wondering why certain things you can't get to work, and there's not a lot of results on Google search for it. Certain things like, just Ubuntu based problems and XFCE stuff you will find a solution for, but anything that's to do with the amalgamation of packages that Enso OS has set up, you might run into a brick wall here and there, so it's worth keeping that in mind. But you can't really complain. It's a one-man team, and hopefully when they do the release of 0.41, that all gets sorted out, and then we don't have to worry about that. And I will be keeping a good close eye on that for the next release of 0.4. So if we close that now, I mentioned Windows snapping, but something that sort of has been a bit annoying, I don't know if you can see that on the capture, the window's going a bit crazy there, and you're getting a bit of sort of artifacty glitchiness and that sort of default Windows snapping. Doesn't happen any other time apart from when I'm doing it with a keyboard, which I've noticed is a bit buggy here and there. But that's you see it there as well, so you do get a weird sort of change of window when you switch it over, which is a bit odd actually. Right, now what we're going to do is talk about their their application manager or software store, however you want to refer to it, which they call Hive. So I've tested it with a couple of packages, mainly Spotify, because I know Spotify is a snap on here. So what we're going to do is type in Spotify again. It's a bit slow as well, I've noticed here and there. So as you can see, we've got Spotify here, and if you scroll down, it will tell you the source of the application that you are installing, and you can see there that we have a snap. So you've got to search. So if we search for a new application, let's say Kdenlive. Like I say, it's quite laggy, I've noticed. This Kdenlive package here is actually an app image. So in the first video, I do believe I set up a different package for Kdenlive, if I did, but then I ended up changing and just going for an app image. I might have even done a Flatpak, I can't remember. Yeah, I did a Flatpak, but there was no Flatpak plugin for the store, so we've done it by the terminal. And I don't mind using a Flatpak, but because of Plank has some funny issues with sort of pinning icons that are Flatpaks sometimes, and I like to just have the pinned one there with the icon theme that I set. So I ended up just making downloading an app image and making a .desktop file for my Kdenlive, which you can see there. And after that, I was all good about that. But what we're going to do is just do a quick demo of Kdenlive. So here's the snap. I just want to show you how the software store works. That will install, and then you'll also get a notification at the top right once that has been complete. So we're going to let that do that. Shouldn't take too long. And then if we go into Settings Manager, this is where you're going to sort of see all the sort of standard XFCE stuff, and again it has Windows Manager and Windows Manager tweaks there, which again you won't be able to open purely because of the Windows Manager change that we mentioned earlier. So let's close that now, and hopefully Hive is nearly finished. Yep, that's nearly done, so we're going to leave that to do its business. There you go, so Kdenlive has now been successfully installed, and then we can quickly launch it now. So it will have the sort of default Kdenlive icon because it's a snap and it doesn't pick up icon themes too well. So if we open that, it's going to take a little while to open because it is a snap package. And there you go, so you've got the latest packages there if you want to go the whole snap route, or you could just go Kdenlive and an app image like I do, and then you're good to go as well. So now we're going to show you how you want to install it. Very straightforward process, done, and you just leave that to do its stuff. So if we go into change desktop background now, so we talked about the wallpaper issue, but that's kind of just an issue that I find myself because I'm not a fan of having crazy colours down at the bottom of a window. But this application here I think is brilliant. So it also has a setting for dock and launcher. So I'm used to usually just going over to the dock here and right clicking with control held down and doing preferences and then getting the settings up here. But the fact that they've sort of they've mapped the settings through here is a very welcome thing, because it's nice to have everything all in one package and get sort of a cohesive product when you want to just sort of change minor things here and there. I might even say they could probably see if they can add a little theme changer in there as well, just to spice things up a bit. So in this dock now, they also have pre-configured sort of setting sizes for small, normal, large, and then our custom one, which is 24. I'm going to go out and say there, the large is too large and the small is too large. Most people will probably be okay with that, so that is currently size 32. You might be wondering why I'm not opening the preferences on here. That's a weird little glitch that I've noticed with here on my computer anyway, when I'm using an external screen and I have the desktop settings open in the dock, and I also have this dock and then try and open the preferences, the default preferences, the whole thing crashes. So we're not going to do that, and we're just going to skip that whole part. But you can also set your hide in here, and then you can go to your focus to Windows and maximize and stuff like that there as well. And then the separator, well, sorry, then the docklets, but the default one is the separator, which is there. But you can add different ones like trash, battery and things like that, but I tend to keep it just very clean, and you don't really need too much stuff when you've got a panel at the top there as well. Launcher wise, so we mentioned the launcher at the beginning, how you can do the category view and the star, but you can also change the icon size. Again, we showed this in the VES video. So if you're someone who likes a bigger icon, I think that's pretty good to have it all there. So again, I think they've gone through the sort of extra effort to make it more of a cohesive product and not just Ubuntu with an XFCE skin on the top of it. And I think it does justify its existence in that respect. It's a weird way of phrasing it, but I think a lot of people, when they see these sort of distributions, think, well, it's just Ubuntu with a theme and, you know, a choice of desktop. But I actually think it's a bit more than that. I think it's got a lot of potential, this distribution, and I would happily recommend it if it wasn't for the fact that it's still currently on 18.04. I think once they get a new version going, then that is going to be brilliant, and I will definitely do a follow-up video on that. So for the most part, the look and feel, top marks, one of the better distributions with XFCE that I have seen in a very long time. The power manager there will just be the XFCE one. I don't like the fact that it's a battery, but that's not really their problem. So what we're going to do now is show you the lock screen, which again is nice, the login screen. So we're going to log out. So if we go to log out, hopefully it does display on the capture card, though it doesn't appear to be. So we'll have to, I'll take a picture of that and show you it and just put it over the top of that screen so you can see what I mean. Okay, so it's extended our display again. I mentioned in the VES video, it seems to have a problem with remembering the settings of the monitor when you set a display or an extension, but that's yeah, it'd be better if it didn't do that. But we're going to jump into the display now, and it is just the standard XFCE display settings. So if we click apply, then we should be back in business. There we go. So I'm just going to wrap it up now just by saying also the default applications that they've chosen to come with, I think is a good mixture actually, and I think they all work very well together, and that the choice of going through applications that do look and feel cohesive was a good move, because nothing really looks out of place. There's a few things that sort of make me go a bit like, oh, I wouldn't have included that, but we've mentioned that already, like the Windows Manager and tweaks, and also the Terminal Sakura has worked very nice. I haven't bothered installing a different terminal, which I usually do actually, opposed to a default, but I've not bothered. And I've only installed a few of my own applications like GIMP, Kdenlive, etc. And again, I keep mentioning it, but the fact that it's 18.04 is very annoying because the packages are old, so I've had to add a different PPA for GIMP. That way we can have a newer version of GIMP without having to use a Flatpak or a Snap or anything like that. So as you can see, I've added the GIMP repo somewhere up there. So their own repo there, which is what we've got, but like you can see, we are on Ubuntu 18.04. So like I said, once the 0.4 comes out, we will do a follow-up video on that and talk about how that sort of changes things, and I'll go over any of the errors that we've sort of mentioned in this video. At the moment we are using 1.5 gig RAM. We're going to do a quick reboot and just see how much RAM we have managed to sort of accumulate for about the week at a cold reboot, soft reboot, and then we're going to, before we do that though, I'm going to make sure library isn't running in the background because that will make it a bit unfair. So we're going to go to startup, session and startup. I'm pretty sure they had their own one. So you have settings, let's go into settings manager a minute. Okay, we won't worry about that. If we go to preferred applications, so your default web browser is Firefox, and of course your default email client is Mozilla Thunderbird, and the terminal Sakura and Funa as your files manager. And I haven't really bothered changing any of the defaults throughout my time with it. It's all worked pretty perfect, to be honest with you. Gaming wise, I did mention about the performance and stability. As I have run into a few crashes, there has been moments where I've gone a bit insane when I was playing a game like Counter-Strike or something, and the game just died on me, and that sort of did wind me up a lot. But we won't mention that too much. So let's close that now, and we're going to do a very quick reboot. One thing actually that I'm not sure why this happens, the startup time is really slow actually. So I thought there was something going wrong with the computer, like why was it keep taking so long to start up. So I compared it with just the standard Ubuntu, and the difference was night and day. This was taking quite a considerable amount of time to start up, but nevertheless, let's go into session and start up, and we're just going to go to application auto start there, and then turn off library. We're going to leave Albert on because I wouldn't usually turn library off, Albert off, but I would sometimes turn library off because I don't always want it to start up anyway. So we're going to stop the video here, do a reboot, get a RAM reading, and then we're just going to sort of wrap it up with some final thoughts, and then that is going to be Enso OS. Okay, we've just booted up, and again, it's not remembered the display settings for some bizarre reason, but as you can see, it's not the lightest XFCE desktop you will find, so it's just hovering around sort of the 790 to 800 mark. I think that's probably due to the Windows Manager and a couple of other things, but you could slim it down. So what we're going to do is open up the Display Manager and just get our mirror set back up, and then give our final thoughts of this distribution. Hopefully the screen shall refresh. There we go. So my final thoughts of just Enso OS, not just 0.31, but just the whole thing in particular, because I think it would be a bit unfair to judge it entirely on this version, because like I said, it does still say beta in the status there, and there is not a massive team working behind it, and for what he's managed to do, I think he's done a good job there, and it does make using XFCE a lot nicer just by default, and having a nice looking cohesive desktop straight away. The plank thing is the thing that bugged me the most, but again, that's probably just me being a bit weird and obsessive and OCD about certain little things the way a desktop's set up. Would I recommend that you use it though, is another question. Probably not. Due to the sort of stability problems that I've had here and there with just the odd crashes here and there, I wouldn't recommend that you use this as a daily driver yet. So like I said, they will be doing a new version hopefully this month, and we'll do a follow-up video, and hopefully it's all good to go, and then I can, you know, give it a seal of approval and say you could definitely run this on your main computer as a daily driver and have a good time doing it. Right, so I need to mention a couple of things before we wrap up. Distro Spinner episode 9 hopefully will be tonight, but there might be a delay purely because the Linux Mint betas, I don't know if any of you guys keep your eyes on these sort of things here, but they're being tested at the moment. If they start coming out thick and fast, they will take sort of precedence over the Distro Spinner video, because I won't want to do, you know, free videos on, because I will cover every one of these distributions, versions of Mint. It won't be fair to sort of, it just won't be a Distro Spinner week basically, because I'll have too many other distributions to be looking at, and that always tends to happen with Distro Spinner when big releases come around. It happens with Ubuntu, it's going to happen with Mint, but I'm going to keep an eye on it tonight. If nothing changes, and it doesn't appear to change, and it's not going to look like it's going to be within the next day or two, then we will do Distro Spinner episode 9 tonight. So that's been Enso OS 0.3.1 Dancing Daisy. If you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe and also join the Discord. There's a link in the description. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.